Hi, I'm Pranav, and today I'm excited to talk about our work on designing interventions to promote perspective taking in ad hoc virtual teams. In research and in practice, we've seen the power of online platforms to allow people to convene in ad hoc ways and contribute towards common goals. For instance, Mozilla's distributed design sprint brought people together to come up with new designs to promote accessibility on the web. Similarly, peer production projects pool efforts of distributed contributors to produce public goods. And these examples really demonstrate our ability to tap into our massive collective resource, which is an unprecedented number of ideas and perspectives. And to give you a sense of why I think this is amazing, these are groups of people who might have never worked with each other, but they come together because of some shared purpose. And because they might not have a working history, they also lack pre-established group norms. Unlike in-person community organizing, it can also be hard to develop trust, mutuality, and reciprocity. All of these challenges are amplified by the fact that the composition of these groups changes often. And despite all of this, they somehow need to be able to coordinate the effort of multiple people to achieve different important outcomes. Critically, success depends on how well collaborators can reach decisions and work together. While these success stories are motivating, online ad hoc teams can often struggle to collectively deliberate and arrive at consensus on matters of collective importance. Teams can often fall into one of two maladaptive states. In the first, teams have a lot of conflict. They refuse to consider alternate opinions and they refuse to compromise, which can lead to fights and can even cause teams to break up. The other maladaptive state is a form of social loafing, where people simply avoid expressing their dissenting perspectives and build artificial consensus. So, how do we help team members express opposing perspectives and engage with those of their teammates to improve teamwork? There's a rich history of CSCW systems to improve teamwork using social visualization. These systems assume that teams might be unaware of their counterproductive communication patterns, and so the solution is to make them aware of their communication patterns. For example, one such system visualizes linguistic agreement in messages of group members, as well as the relative space they take up in the conversation based on the number of words they've uttered. However, researchers have found that even when teams use these systems, social loafing can persist. For example, team members express agreement with the majority opinion, even if they do not agree with it, which ultimately leads to lower quality work. We argue that social visualization fails because it overlooks the social and psychological barriers to effective team communication. Organizational behavior literature shows that for team members to speak up, they must feel it is both safe and effective to voice their opinions. If they fear being reprimanded, they will not speak up. If they don't think their opinion will be taken into account, they will not contribute. For newly convened teams, an uncertainty about group norms and potential consequences of speaking up can affect these perceptions of safety and efficacy. To cultivate the safety and efficacy necessary for open communication, we built Empathosphere, a chat-embedded intervention to promote constructive communication. We chose to build a chat-embedded intervention since ad hoc virtual teams often use messaging services like Slack, Discord, or Teams to communicate. To explore different possible designs within a completely configurable environment, we built a custom messaging platform, and when triggered, Empathosphere appears as a widget in this chat interface. Empathosphere creates safety and efficacy by fostering perspective taking, which is the ability to understand how a situation appears to another person and how they might react cognitively and emotionally to the situation. Through perspective taking, team members are more likely to recognize that other people will have different views. This can both reduce initial opposition to others' ideas, as well as mentally prepare individuals to handle opposition to their own ideas, which can improve perceived safety. Perspective taking can also lead to a cognitive reframing that leads to better integration of others' ideas, which can improve perceived efficacy. To foster perspective taking, Empathosphere draws on the known mechanism of attention modulation. That is, drawing attention to others' emotions and affective states can improve perspective taking. First, Empathosphere privately elicits how team members actually feel about working with their group. These responses are not shown directly to other team members in the hopes of eliciting more honest responses. Next, Empathosphere asks each member in private to guess how each of the other members in the team might be feeling on the same scale, to nudge them to direct their attention towards others in the team. Empathosphere then calculates the mean of individuals' self-reported emotions from the first stage to present each participant with feedback about the aggregate group climate. That is how positive or negative the group as a whole is feeling without revealing individual responses. To further aid in perspective taking, Empathosphere also presents every member with feedback on how accurate they were at guessing others' emotions on average. And this whole activity takes about 120 seconds on average. To investigate the impacts of Empathosphere, we conducted a between subject study with teams of crowd workers on Amazon Mechanical Turk. Teams were randomly assigned to either the empathosphere or control condition. Teams in the empathosphere condition carried out the perspective taking exercise at the midpoint, whereas participants in the control condition conducted a silent reflection activity at the midpoint. This represents a conservative control condition because prior work suggests that even a break in work can have some benefits for team members' ability to navigate conflict. We asked teams in both conditions to work on a negotiation task. The task required teams to decide how to allocate funds across competing project proposals, and so it required teams to work interdependently and resolve conflicting perspectives to arrive at a solution. As soon as there were a sufficient number of participants, they were split into teams of 6 participants each and were added to a chat room with their team members. In the discuss phase, teams were asked to weigh the pros and cons of each proposal and rank them in terms of their relative merit. Following this, teams in the 2 condition underwent their respective interventions. After this, teams moved on to the decide phase, where they had to make an allocation of 500,000 across the different projects. The exit survey included questions corresponding to our different measures. 110 participants completed the experiment across 24 teams, and we conducted an analysis on these 24 teams, which included 11 teams in the control and 13 teams in the intervention condition. To capture changes in conversational behavior, we compared changes in the interaction patterns across the 2 phases. We found that empathosphere led to an increase in the use of second-person pronouns, suggesting that people drew others into the conversation. And there was no significant difference in the use of second-person pronouns in the control condition. Empathosphere also led to an increase in informal words and an increase in net speak, suggesting an increase in group rapport. To understand differences in participants' experiences of working with their teams, we looked at responses to open-ended questions in the exit survey. We found that empathosphere encouraged participants to voice disagreements while also making participants more perceptive to other team members' behaviors. For instance, one participant noticed how they felt everyone could voice their opinion and no one was shot down. Participants also made specific observations about the opinions of other members in the group. Teams in the control condition reported more polarized experiences, with either too much or too little conflict. On one extreme, a participant mentioned how no one was really into the conversation, while another participant mentioned how a teammate was not respectful of their ideas. We used linear mixed effects models to analyze our Likert type and binary measures. We included measures for viability or participants' desire to continue working with their team, satisfaction with their team solution, as well as binary measures for their willingness to give and receive feedback from other members on their team. Participants in the empathosphere condition scored team viability to be higher than participants in the control condition. More participants in the empathosphere condition were willing to give feedback to teammates when compared to participants in the control. Similarly, more participants are also willing to receive feedback when compared to participants in the control. Participants in the empathosphere condition also express higher satisfaction with their team solution. To summarize, we introduced Empathosphere, which is a chat-embedded intervention to promote constructive communication. Our results suggest that Empathosphere could improve a team's desire to continue working together and foster a climate of open communication, where team members also feel comfortable exchanging feedback with each other. The fact that Empathosphere changed communication patterns and made them more other-oriented, coupled with our participants' descriptions of their experiences, suggests that Empathosphere could have heightened social perceptiveness in groups, ultimately leading to more open communication in teams. This also opens up questions of how mechanisms like Empathosphere can inform the design of interventions to increase equity of participation and inclusion in workplaces. I'm also happy to chat more about how we can move beyond small groups and support consensus building at the scale of online communities. Thank you.